and we're going to share screen, and we're going to talk about the idea of paragraph styles and character styles in general, and we're going to apply that idea to the concept of creating diminuendo. So let me zoom in on this a little bit, because I wrote this before we started, obviously, so that this is the kind of thing that we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it. That's what the text is referring to. And so, and I will share, well, you'll see this in the recording, it's actually recording, but I'm also going to put it on the Canvas site. So hopefully that will help us a little bit. And the other thing I should mention ahead of time is the word diminuendo is kind of an ancient word. It's Latin. And so if you were to Google search diminuendo, and I've tried this, it actually isn't helpful. It doesn't come up and tell you anything, which is surprising. And I've yet to find what somebody else might call it to get there. But all the designers that I know refer to this as diminuendo. So I'm not quite sure why. Of course, I haven't Googled it this year, but in the past I've never found it. So maybe I should try it again this year. At any rate, the idea, the concept that we are trying to create here is that that diminuendo is an extension of typographic hierarchy. The effect that we're after is to create a smoother visual transition from the heading or title, which is typically the largest, most dominant text, through the subtitle, if one exists, to the byline, if it exists, to the first letter of the story, to the first line of the story, and finally to the story itself. The rest of the story after that first paragraph might continue in one of two ways. It might continue in the same manner as the first paragraph was, the majority of the first paragraph was, or it might go one final step in diminuendo. That depends on how you treated the majority of the text in the first paragraph in the first place. So in the example that we're looking at here, I treated the entire first paragraph differently than the rest of the story. So the second paragraph and each one after is one more step in diminuendo. So there's a lot of variation in how you can apply this. In either case, the new second paragraph is indicated by either an indentation or by greater leading. Please don't call that greater leading double spacing. That will mark you immediately as a non-designer. So if you're speaking to other designers or something like that, don't ever say double spacing. Say increased leading or line spacing. To create all of this, you do it by creating two, and I need to rewrite this, there's so many little mistakes on here, but you need to do it by creating two character styles first. You label those, the first one initial letter, and the second character style, you label it diminuendo. You honestly could label it anything you want, but I think for the purposes of us learning it, I'd like us to all call it the same things as one another. So one of the character styles is labeled initial letter, the other is called diminuendo. Then you're going to create two paragraph styles. One is labeled first paragraph, and the second of the paragraph styles is labeled story paragraph. The first of those paragraph styles contains the two embedded character styles that we created initially. Both paragraph styles include the amount of leading that you wish to have between the two paragraphs. That space is created in the space after option of the paragraph styles window options. So that's basically what we're doing. So now I want to show you how I created this version of it that we're looking at. And I am not at all implying that this is the only way yours should look. This is just one example of applying it, okay? So I'm going to pause here for a moment. Is there anything I need to either repeat or that you're not seeing, or wasn't clear about what I just said. Oh, okay. All right, so I'm going to go on. So we said we're going to first create the character styles. So I go to the character styles window, and I create one that's called diminuendo and one that's called initial letter. I do that by either going down here where it says create new style, or by going up to the options and create it there. We should be familiar with that. That's the way Illustrator work. That's the way pretty much all of our windows work, that we can either create the most common options or reasons that we would go to this window in the first place in either through the options button or through the icon if it's down here. And again, we can only do that in two places with the most common options of that window. So creating a new character style in this case is a very common thing to come to this window for. So I choose new character style, and I created one called diminuendo, and I created one called initial letter. Then while I was in there, I get the window that looks like this. So I'm returning to the window that I've already called diminuendo. And what I did in here is not a bunch of things, but I did one or two things. And I'm going to make some additional changes on it now, and we'll see them reflected. So what I did first of all was, and this is character styles now, I went to the basic character formats where I decided what typeface I want. This part of the window looks exactly the same as the regular character window, doesn't it? It's where we can pick the typeface, the size, the amount of leading, the case. In this instance, I chose all caps for the case. So I could have left it normal, could have made it small caps, could have done any of those things. I made it all caps right now, and it looks like this. I'm going to change it to small caps. And if I click I need to move this so that you can see it. I click the preview button, and I will see it applied. So it's slightly smaller letters that almost look the same as all caps. I'm going to change it back, and we'll watch that again. So here's all caps now. And so in this particular case, it's not that much difference in Arial Black. Other typefaces, you will notice a bigger difference, but in this case, all caps and small caps are not that different. It's slightly different, and so it's applying it to this section right up here. Okay, so again, there's small caps, and here is all caps. All right. So I was going to go to small caps. That's the character stuff. You don't yet know how to assign it to this, but that's the effect of it. All right, the other things that I could change in here, I can go down to any of these other things. I can change the scaling and that, but in the past I've encouraged you not to do those things because they're distortions. I can change the color character here. And sometimes this is a place where I like to use gray a lot because it's a way to slightly diminish its overall effect. So right now, this is a huge, very dominant W. And I might want to weaken it, perhaps. But if I wanted to weaken the diminuendo character style, then I can create a new character or color right here, just like I'm used to doing through the font color or an outline of it. If we go down here further, I'm going to skip open type, underline, and strike through. Let's see. I thought there was one other thing I wanted us to look at. Not so much. So it's pretty much in this window here. That looks very much like your character window. We're just applying it through the style. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that and say OK. And then I'm going to go to the initial letter character style, which in this case is applied to the W. So I'm going to open it back up to see its controls. And it's applying it to the initial letter. And if I go down to the character formats, then I'm picking the typeface for it, which is going to be Arial Black. I'm going to change that to Arial Narrow, and we can see now it looks like that. It's not quite as heavy. But I think that's maybe too much. I just go to regular area. So that one might be a little bit better, but then what I would do to get what it's going on right now, I'm going to go back to the diminuendo one, and it needs to be beefed up a little bit because this is heavier, this is lighter than the actual text that follows it. So I need to either lessen this or increase this to get that more of a smooth transition. So since I'm here, I'm going to go to this one, and I'm going to try back at all caps. And that's okay. That's okay. I think what I might do is change the all caps on the rest of the text now. But at least, hopefully you can see where these things are affecting it. You don't know yet how to apply it. So we have to go to the next step to do that. So if we were doing this right from step one, we would create the styles, but you're not going to see anything happen yet. To see something happen, you now have to go not under the character styles window, but we have to go to the paragraph styles window and embed these. So we're going to go under type into paragraph styles now. Paragraph styles. Okay, and in paragraph styles, I'm going to the first paragraph. All right, I needed to make those first, just like before. So I make a first paragraph style. I'm going to open it up. And in here, what I'm trying to decide is, okay, what do I want to do to that first paragraph to indicate this concept of diminuendo? So I've chosen to do this all caps to all of the words in there with the, and then have this part here be different to create a transition. If I don't want to do something to this part, but have it be the regular story, then I need to change that. So I'm going to go here, take the all caps off and say normal, and preview. So now I have the same typeface as this, but you can see there's more leading in this paragraph than there is in this one. And it's because we have different things applied to this first paragraph style than the leading that's applied to this paragraph story text paragraph style. Okay, so in here, in this first one, the leading is 16. So just by comparison, let's just okay that. Let's click on the story text paragraph style, and we look in here, and the leading is 12. Oh, whoops, I accidentally applied it there. And I accidentally applied it because my cursor was still clicked in this paragraph. So I need to click here where the style it's applied is story text. Notice when I moved my cursor over there, I accidentally selected first paragraph. So I want story text. Now I'm going to open it up. There we go. Okay, and under basic character formats, we can see that the leading is 12. If I, let's put preview. Preview is on. So I can click this up to 16 and you can see it increased not only on that paragraph where I'm clicked in, it has also increased it down here where I'm not clicked in. Notice I haven't selected anything. I'm just clicked in the paragraph. Now, with that, this is a global change. It is absolutely the same kind of concept behind when we created global colors in Illustrator. It means we can edit the style, and everything that has that style applied to it will change accordingly. So the steps to make this happen are, first, make the style, then apply the style, so you can see what it looks like, and then third, tweak it by adjusting the style, which is what we're doing right now. Okay? So there's a few more things that I wanted to point out in here, and then we'll see where I've totally confused this. So what I haven't talked about yet are embedding the character styles that we created. So I need to be in the first paragraph. We'll go ahead and okay that. So I need to be in the first paragraph. So I'm going to open that guy up. And we can kind of see it there. And we've been looking at the basic character formats. In that window, there's no place to embed the character styles, the diminuendo and initial letter character style. So if I go down here to drop caps and nested styles, right down here. Click on that one, and you can see that the settings that I've chosen are to drop the first letter, the first character, 3 lines. So normally that W would be sitting on the same baseline as the rest of the word when. By dropping it 3 lines, there's the first line, second line, third line. So it's dropped down 3 lines, and I applied it to 1 character. Since the first word is when and has 1, 2, 3, 4 characters, I could change this to include the entire first word. And sometimes that's a good thing to do if your first word is a very, very short word, like as, let me get that up. If your very first word is a short word, like as, he, she, something like that, because then instead of just doing on, let's say the first word is as, A-S, and if I make the A really big and then you've got one more letter that's a small s, it's not going to read as a word. So that would be a good reason to pick the entire first word. Now, on the other hand, this could work here, doing the entire first word. It can't be larger or more dominant than the title. Because again, we're trying to create a visual transition from the title down through this. So if we go this entire first word, then I'm going to go back to this. And instead of it dropping 3 lines, I might drop it just 2. You know, something like that. So those are some options. I'm going to change this back to 1 character right now. And it's just dropping 2 lines now. I think it's a better relationship between it and what we did here. And then therefore it's not as dominant. So I've weakened it a little bit by changing its scale. I could have weakened it by changing its color, and I mentioned that a moment ago with gray. So let's just do that. I'm going to change it to 3 again, so it's really dominating. But let's weaken it by color. So I'm going down here to character color, and let's see if I can see it. So I'm running this back, and I can see, so I've changed it down to like, let's go something even. So there's 70% gray now. So at that side, and it's applying it to this entire style. So this entire paragraph style. So what I need to have it apply, I need to do that kind of thing back in the character style of the initial letter. Does that make sense? So I'm doing it in the paragraph style, therefore it's going to apply to the entire paragraph. So we're going to change this back to 100. And I'm also going to change the dot cap back to 2 lines. So I went into some other things there. Let me come back and repeat just the basic part of this. And that is embedding the character style in the paragraph style. So the paragraph style is the look that we want, in this case, the first paragraph to have. And in that look, we want to have a version of diminuendo that goes from the first letter to the next couple of words to, and now I've changed it to the rest of the text, which will be like the story text. When I first pulled it up, remember, the rest of this was not like the rest of the story text. It was another version of diminuendo. It was another step in there. So I decided to take that out. Anyway, I've embedded it in here by going to drop caps and nested styles. I've been using the word embedded because we're more familiar with that perhaps. Maybe I should be using the word nested because that's what InDesign calls it. So you could be looking for embedded with something in here and you won't find it. So I apologize for that. I'm going to change and start just simply calling it nested. So we've nested the character styles within the paragraph style. And right now we've been looking at primarily the nested style of the initial cap letter. So you can see that here. So how did I do that? Well, I wanted it to drop 2 lines, 1 character, and over here I looked, and because I had already created the character styles, this will show up in my list. If I have not created the character styles first, the only thing that'll show up is none or new character style. Now, InDesign started to do that, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, so that if you forgot to do the character style first, you could click on this. It would take you to the character style window where you would do it. Then you would come back to here and apply it. I think it's actually better to just think ahead, do the character style first, then come here and pick it from the menu, which will now include it, and then choose it. So we've chosen the initial letter character styles and applied it to 1 letter, dropping 2 lines deep. Okay, after you do that, then we actually want a second nested style to apply to these words, the rest of the word when and the word creating and diminuendo. So what we do down here is then hit the new nested style button, and it will come up with the options to create a second style. Okay, so if I click that, and you can see it down here, line style, and this is new nested style. So essentially you click this, and then it gives you an option to bring in another nested style. And so you can see the new one that I've already done was diminuendo. I chose it exactly the same way over here, and going through 3 words. So I chose, so it did when creating diminuendo. If I wanted to apply it more than 3 words, and I'm going to delete that one and go to the one that I've created and choose this. Instead of 3 words, let's make it do just 2 words. And I guess I have to click away. There we go. So now it's just applied to the first 2 words, when creating. Okay, because that's the style that is there that we've created. So we've applied it within, or nested it within this first paragraph style. So I'm going to say OK, and now I need to find out if that made sense. So please ask me now to either repeat, start from the beginning. Oh, I lost one. I was up at OK until one point, or whatever it is. Yes, Gavin.
So how you did the paragraph style for the entire text, you made like a paragraph style for the opening paragraph and for the rest of the story text too.
Yeah, so if we look back here at paragraph style, I didn't open that one up for us, but it's the same way. Whoops, I clicked, it was clicked in there and I just clicked on it here. That applied it.
Right. Okay.
I don't want that. So I'm going to click down here. But originally you won't have anything applied at all. So it will look like however you typed it in. Then you've made a style and you apply it.
So
Go ahead.
if you click the paragraph that you're on now with the with story text, I guess it won't apply
These other parts.
right.
Right. Okay. So let's look at it. So this one has the story text paragraph style applied. Let's look
Right.
at it. So we open it up, and here under drop caps and nested styles, there isn't anything.
Right.
Okay. So I haven't put that in there. If we look at the basic character formats, I've decided this is the text that I want to be its point size and leading. Now there's one thing I haven't talked about yet, and that's the space between. But let's get this part first. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So that the second paragraph and the first paragraph is two different.
Two different styles.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. Let's create a brand new style. Okay. So we're going to cancel. Let's say that this third paragraph is some kind of quote. It's something. For some reason it's a pull quote. It's something else. It's not the main part of the story. It's something else. So we need a different style to apply to it. So we've clicked in that paragraph. We're going to go to the paragraph styles window, and we're going to create a new style. So in this case, instead of going to the options, I'm going to go down here and click create new style. Comes up and it says paragraph style 1. It still says story text here because that's what's applied now. And if I click on this, it's not going to change because it's this new one that I'm creating right now. InDesign automatically thinks you want to make the new style based on what is already there. And it will do that because most of the time, yeah, that is a good thing. But that's why we don't see any changes yet. But let's edit it. So we click on this, go and open it. Whoops, sorry, open it up. And here's our control window. So I'm going to say that I want the basic character formats, the same typeface minion, but the style is going to be, here we go. Case is, no. I guess I have to do it under font. For minion. I want italics. And I thought I had italics. Apparently I don't have Minion Pro italics on here, which is kind of a surprise to me. Let's try this one. There we go. We'll go there. So I'm just doing regular Minion rather than Minion Pro. So Minion italic, and we can now see that that paragraph is kind of italicized. Okay, and any of the other things that I want to change with it, I do it here, and because it's a part of this description, of how I want the paragraph to look, then when I apply it, that's what's going to change. Okay? Now, instead of leaving this paragraph style 1, I'm going to rename that. I'm going to call it quote. Okay? All right. Somebody else a question? I need to look at you guys. It's slightly different.
I didn't have questions. I just missed stuff because I had to go get my door.
Your door? Oh, someone was at the door?
Yeah, it kept ringing and I couldn't. I had to go get the door because the door was ringing twice.
Oh, okay.
But I'll look back at it. I'm pretty sure I just missed the first part and then there was another part that I missed, but it's okay.
Where did you lose? Which part?
No, it's okay. I can go back and look at it too. I mean, I've done some of this stuff already, but I wanted to just make sure I took notes. So.
Okay, so I see Melanie has left us because she either ran out of good backgrounds to put up, or someone's at her door, or
I'm still here though.
okay. So I'm sorry I'm picking on you here, but how did that work for you?
For me,
Yes.
I understood it so far like you'd create like different styles depending on what you need to adjust.
That's it, really. I mean, first, if we understand it conceptually, why are we doing this? I think then it makes more sense. So we're creating a look. We want this paragraph to look a particular way. And we know that we're going to have a similar kind of paragraph many times. So we're going to have a first paragraph for all of your stories. And we're going to decide on the look that we want the first paragraph for all of the stories to look like. Then we're also creating, well, we're going to have a diminuendo look for all of the first paragraphs. So we play around with the look that we want it to be. We name a style that, and then once we do it, it's just a click to apply it to other stories. So for example, if this paragraph right here were the first paragraph in our second story, all I have to do is click in there and click on first paragraph. That's all I have to do. I don't have to mess around with anything else. I don't want that here on this one, so I'm going to say I want it to look like the story text. So it's going to look like that. If this paragraph was a quotation, well, let's see. I have a quotation paragraph look. So it's going to look like that.
It's kind of, it reminds me of like the way where if you're using like the formatting in like, let's say Word document and you want to make it look the same way, you just, you know, can click on it and change it, the formatting with the little paintbrush thingy.
Yes, it's very similar. Those things are all related, like the master pages that within Word that you're talking about, the global colors idea. All of those things are related in the sense that you're setting up a system that you know you're going to want the same look in many places. So you do it once the way you want it, then you can apply it. So that's the conceptual part. All right, so I think we all get that. Please, should I do the steps again, or have you got it?
Good.
Could you go over the part where you were embedding the diminuendo and initial letter?
Absolutely. Okay, so let's take this one and pretend that this is the first paragraph on this one. okay? And so we're going to create a new paragraph style. And we're going to call it second version first paragraph. Okay?
Also, for this, do we have to have the mini windows or no?
Say that again.
Remember you saying like we don't have to do it the exact same way that you're doing the mini window,
Correct.
but to have the mini window.
You have to have the menu window.
Okay.
So I'm attempting to show you ways that you can change how you apply the menu window. And then it's up to you to pick which combination you like. That's the design part. And the only rule is that you're trying to create a visual, smooth transition that we're calling hierarchy. That's okay?
Okay.
Okay. All right. So, I say okay to this, and notice it hasn't changed one bit. That's because it has a style applied to it already. Okay, but I've now created this new style over here. So let's open up that style. And let's make some changes with it. So let's say that in this style, we want to embed some character styles which we've already created. So we're going to go down to the drop caps nested styles option. Notice I'm skipping a whole bunch in here, and I've yet to go to the indents and spacing one, which talks about space between paragraphs. Okay, but there's other things that we can do. Oh, the other thing I should mention while we're here, or no, I'm going to stay on track. I'm going to stay on one thing. So I'm going to go to drop caps and nested styles. And in here, notice, like, because when this is the first time I've opened up the window for this style to name it, and then everything else is, there are no character styles applied yet. So I go to the, let's go to the, let's not do a drop cap. And let's instead say, yeah, so instead let's say diminuendo. And we're going to apply it to a number of characters or a number of letters. So I'm looking at my paragraph here, and I'm going to apply it to the first two words, which are to create. So I'm going to count those letters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 letters. And I'm going to go here and do 8 letters, but I'm not going to drop them. So I'm leaving that alone. Okay? And I have not done anything else, and I'm going to say okay. And you can see, oh, I was looking at the wrong, I was clicking this paragraph, sorry. The first two words are the rest. And so you can see that they now have the diminuendo character style applied to them. That's what I applied right here. That also had a drop cap. This one doesn't have a drop cap. Is this a version of diminuendo? Yes, it just doesn't have an initial letter. So that would be an answer maybe for you, Gavin. I sense you don't like the initial letter version of this. That's fine. We don't have to have an initial letter that's larger. We might do it this way would be an option. That help a little bit on that one?
Yeah, no, it's not that I don't like the initial letter. I was just wondering.
Oh, just how to do it differently. Yeah,
Yeah.
So this would be an example. And I forgot who asked me to go back over the embedded one. I didn't see you all. Who asked me that?
It was me.
Wow.
Oh, okay. Okay, so did that answer? Of
Yes.
How to embed? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Jasmine. So let me stay with this. Other questions that you'd like me to repeat?
So, Professor, you're saying that, we have to put one in there, but the difference in styles are, things like that example you just did, where those are bigger but not as big as that W.
Correct.
And then the other one was the changing the color of it or changing the opacity. So like, because you had it in black and then it was like a 70%. So those would all be just options of that same thing.
Yeah, let's do a little more of that. So remember when I changed the opacity up here and I forgot where I was, and my intention was to make the W a gray, but I forgot, oh, I'm in a paragraph style. So when I put in 70%, it applied it through the entire paragraph. When really I want to do it on the character style. So remember,
Okay.
this is a character style right here, isn't it? It's embedded or nested in this paragraph. So to make the words the rest gray, I don't edit the paragraph style, I edit the character style.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go there. Now when I edit it and make it gray, it's also going to change it up here, because this is that character style as well. But
Yeah,
let's
because
do
it's
it.
already tied to that.
Yeah, let's do it and just see. So I'm in the character styles window. I'm going to open up the menu window, character style. And I'm going to go to character color. And I'm just going to make it easy. I'm just going to change the color altogether to blue. And you can see that now wherever the character style has been applied, it changes to blue or cyan. Okay. How about somebody else?
So I have a, sorry.
Go ahead.
So it wouldn't be, I guess, the diminuendo, but I guess it goes along with the same thing of using the paragraph and character styles. Like let's say you have something, for example, like I guess something like the name of something that would have to be, is it the name of something that has to be italicized? I
Typically,
think.
yes.
Yeah. So
The
like
proper-
something like that. And if it's repeated throughout the story, then would we create like a character style for that particular thing so that we could have that repeated in there always with that same style, like italicized?
Yes. So
Okay.
your example is a good example for a couple of reasons. One is that, well, you could ask yourself, is it faster to apply a character style, or is it faster to simply select the letter and click italics? You know, and that particular example is one that is kind of a toss-up. I'm not sure it's that much faster to have a character style of italics to apply to a proper name. You certainly could do it that way, but the question is does that make your life easier and faster to have it done that way? It's a toss-up. When
Okay.
it does make a difference is, I think, on this first paragraph, it should be easy to tell that, well, once you've created the look of the diminuendo that you like, because it's going to take you a while to create this. If you had to take all that time to do it every first paragraph or every story, you can see where that would eat up a lot of time. But if you've made it once and the way you like it, now all you do is click on the first paragraph style, and it's done all the things for you. So
Yeah.
it's like it's a time-saving thing. And so when it is perhaps a toss-up between time-saving doing it through a style or through just applying a regular character change, then it's totally your preference.
Okay. Just checking that I wasn't sure if that was like allowed or if that was preferable to do it the other way. I did the character styles for mine.
Mm-hmm.
So far just the text so far, just changing that with the indentation. And I did notice that it was a lot faster to just go in there. Oh, because I changed the font too. So
Oh,
it was a lot easier because when I initially put it in, it was still in Minion Pro and I didn't want to use that.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I float everything in, so it was a lot faster to change it that way.
Yeah, good example. Let's say that the logo for a company is in a different typeface. It's a different color. It's bold. It's whatever. It's part of its brand. So now there are several changes that are happening to that word. You originally just typed in a name. You typed in, I don't know, Google. The article has the word Google in it. And so because it has several changes that you would want to make to give it its brand, then absolutely making it into a style is faster. I know some designers that they only use styles. They just, even my earlier example when I said, like the one that you had of just changing one thing, they will still use styles. And they do that so that they catch everything. And then when they want to change the look of one thing throughout, they just edit the style. So they do it for a possible future editing reason. So let's say that,
Okay.
let's use that example one more time. Let's say that you make all of the names of things italics and you've done it as a style. And then later on in the whole design process, you decided, well, I want it to be italics and semi-bold. Since you did it as a style, you just open the style, edit the style, and it applies it to every instance of that word. On the other hand, if you didn't use it as a style, now you have to go through and find every instance and make both of those changes, and you might miss one. But it's certainly a longer process. So I guess for that reason alone, I would encourage you to use styles even if it's only making one change. How about any other question or thing you'd like me to repeat? With that, I can't believe I did that good of a job. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I do have a question about like the appearance of the paragraphs.
Okay.
So, for example, like at that first one where the large W is at, I noticed on the first line and
Yeah.
how like paragraph is like broken up.
Yes.
And I noticed that if I were to move them a last word of a line to the next one, there would like be some sort of gap.
Great question. So you're starting to talk about, what do I got going? You're starting to talk about some other typographic things that must be changed. For one, I've got some typographic errors in here. I've got a hyphenated word that really I want to try to avoid if possible. There's probably some misspelling in here as well because I just typed it in. So you're absolutely right. There's some other, here, down here where it says, it's supposed to say don't. Well, that needs to be changed. That hyphen needs to be changed. There were some other, there's no space between the word heading and the, so there's all sorts of errors. So right now, I'm trying to simply concentrate on how do you create character styles, embed them in paragraph styles, and then apply them. That's what I'm focusing on. But you are great. That's a great observation that yes, these are some other things that would need to be changed. And since you brought it up, let's do that. So in this first in this right here, to avoid, first of all, I would need to pick my average line in here and count the number of letters and see if the total number of letters falls between 40 and 60. So I need to do that first before I do anything with a hyphenated word. So this is the shortest line here. I think that's the longest line. So maybe this is an average line right here, this third line down. So I'm going to count the letters. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, counting the space. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. So that's the shortest the line could be. 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60. I'm at least three letters too long. So in other words, the minimum length of word set with this typeface at this point size, actually, sorry, let me rephrase that. Any text, 40 to 60 characters per line are the parameters. Using this typeface at this size, my line lengths are slightly too long. So I can do several things. I can change the typeface, I could change the point size, or I can shorten the line length and keep everything else the same. That's the easiest in this case. So what I'm going to do is come up here and shorten this, and I might be able to get rid of the hyphen in the process. And I forgot to mark where 60 was. Was this 60? Anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I still have a space there. So let's see if I come back to this. I did in this particular case, that's my line length, but I did not get rid of the hyphen. It might have. That's why I did that first. So now,
Professor, did you just change the size of your text box, or?
I changed the size of the text box. Now what this means is that's the size for all of the stories.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm using this typeface at this size for all of the stories. Okay, and what that would do is essentially affect the gutter space between columns, that kind of thing. But right now I'm only trying to address this issue. Okay, and the first, it was a possibility that I would have gotten rid of the hyphenated word because by shortening it, it could have come back into here. But of course, I created another hyphenated word. So at any rate, going down to here did not eliminate that hyphenated word. So what else can I do? One is to return this word. And so I'm going to do a shift return and put it down there. That's called a soft return. It's supposed to help us do a number of things. One of the things that it will do is not let InDesign think it's a new paragraph. So I'm going to back that up, and this time not hold the shift key down and hit the return key. Notice now InDesign thinks I've created a new paragraph. I don't want that. So I hold the shift key down and the return key down. And now I have not created a new paragraph. I've just moved it to the next line. So the question, I think, Melanie, that you were asking me, is that going to create too big of a hole here? And that is a question. So now what we have to decide is which is more distracting? This larger amount of space or the hyphen? Now I would argue that, well, there's only one hyphen here. I think that's less distracting. It's breaking the word in a normal way, and it's only one. So if I were working with this, I'd leave it there. Now, let's say, on the other hand, I've got 2 or 3 hyphens in this paragraph. Well, I need to eliminate some then, and maybe this is the easiest one to do that with. So now I do that. It does create a larger amount of space at the end of the line, but it's not huge. And now I would probably argue that, well, if there were still 2 other hyphens existing, I would say that it was less distracting to have 3 or more hyphens in the paragraph than to have that space. Does that answer your question a bit?
Yes.
Okay. So in this case, I would leave it here. Okay. Now, the one part of the paragraph styles that I have not done yet is creating the amount of leading or line spacing between paragraphs. This is not a double space. I have not hit the return key twice. So what instead we do is go to the paragraph style, and we have to do this in both the first paragraph and the other paragraphs. So let's do it in the first paragraph style first. So here's the first paragraph. Let's open it up. And I'm going to change it to something different so that we can see the effect. So under indents and spacing, we have an option to do a number of things. And one is indents. So let's say that we wanted to indicate the paragraphs not by extra space, but by indentations. If that's the case, we would make the space of the first paragraph space after to be the regular amount of leading. And I have to remember what my leading was here. I think, I'm going to guess and we'll see if it's true. I think that my leading was 16 points. So that's 0p16. I think that that's true. And I think that that's right. And so, okay, so we're going to say, okay. Then I'm going to click here. Yeah, my leading is 16. Okay. So there's still extra space here. Why is that? And that is because there is, I need to there was another return in there. So
Can you have another return in there?
you can. So if I put just one more return in there, it's actually thinks it's the first paragraph. So I'm going to say it's the story paragraph, so it doesn't have that. And delete that extra space. So this is first. Is that true? No. Okay, well, let me go on with the other part here first, I think. So if I want the story text to be indicated with an indent, so I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to go to the indents and spacing, and I'm going to say the left indent, I'm going to say 0p6, and okay it. Oh, that's not good enough for us to see it. Indents and spacing, we'll say 2p0. Why are we not getting that? That should happen. Oh, I know what's going on. No, have I messed this up now by screwing around with it? This is the first paragraph. This is the story text. There we go. Oh, okay. All right. You can see how everything is indented by that 12 points I just made in there. So what I want us to see is the difference between indenting the entire paragraph, which we might want to apply to this, to the quote. And it's doing it to both because this was created based on this. I didn't intend to do indentations here. That's why it's doing it that way. But it's not a big deal. I can change that. But let's go back and open up story text. Look at indents and spacing. And you can see that the left indentation is right here. And that's the difference between left indent, which will apply to all of the lines of that paragraph, versus first line indent. That's where we want the 2p0. So we're going to put this back to 0. And this is going to be 2p0. And when we look at it now, it'll be just the first line, like what we might call a normal indentation. Okay? And the And the other part that we want to look at is opening this up, and under indents and spacing is the space after. We could also say space before, but I think it's normally more helpful to do space after. So I have space after being 1p6. That 1p6 needs to also be a part of the first paragraph. We're right now doing the story one. So let's change this to something we can definitely notice the difference. Let's do 4p0. Okay, and you can see now that the space after this paragraph is increased by a lot more. This one, it has an indent in it, and maybe we don't want a first line indent, but as a quote, we might want all of the lines indented. So we're going to quote and indents and spaces, and changing from the first line to be this, we're going back up to the entire thing, and the space after here, what they have? Oh, yeah, so that's 4p0. And okay, so now all of the quote is indented, not just the first line. And if we hit the return up here, it's going to jump down. And it thinks I want to apply that same style. I really don't. So I want it to be the story text. And there's my, oops. There. So that would be the start of a next story paragraph. Notice it jumped all the way down here with one return, because that's the amount of space I wanted to have it move when I hit the return key. Okay, so what kind of questions here? Paula? Yes. Do you have a question? No, not at all? You look like you might.
No, I'm actually taking notes, and I'm trying to because I know that these things are just like design things.
Yeah.
I'm not too familiar with, but I'm taking the notes, and yeah, I'm understanding it though.
Okay. Okay. I didn't. Yeah. When you looked like that, I was interpreting that as it didn't make sense.
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Mooks.
Hi.
How are you doing here?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, it's making sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it's making sense and I get it. I think that I just have to go back through the recording later on if I forget anything.
And actually do it. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. As long as I'm not totally confusing this here, that's my main goal right now.
No, I got it.
Okay. Not Clara.
Hello.
This is not Brett here. So how are you doing?
I just I left for a second to get my sister the door because no one would let her in.
Oh, okay.
I missed the last minute of you talking though.
Okay, so before the last minute happened, was there a part that you wanted me to repeat, or do you want me to pick up from some spot?
Wait, I forgot what we were talking about because yeah, why don't you go back to a spot, but I forgot what you were saying.
When the spacing, were you there when I started talking about indents, or had I finished that and started talking about the space between paragraphs?
Yeah, it was probably the spacing.
Was it the space between paragraphs or the indentation spacing?
The indentation spacing.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay,
so first of all, since we've applied it in two different ways here, let's look at the difference. So this one is just the first line of the paragraph is indented. We're used to seeing that as a way to indicate a new paragraph, right? We've seen that a million times. So that is the resulting look when we click first line indent only. This look down here where all of the lines are in further or indented in further, that's the effect that results when clicking simply indent by however much you put it in. Okay, so that's the effect of that look. That's the effect of a different look. So where you change it is here. So I've clicked in this paragraph. That's the story text paragraph. So let's open it up. And when we look at the indents and spacing control, it's set on the first. Wait a minute. I'm in the top one. It's set on just the first line indent. Okay, so that means it's going to create a normal indent. I say okay, and sure enough, it's just created a normal indent. I click in this one, which is the quote paragraph. I open it up and look at indents and spacing for that one, and notice the 2p0 amount is not in the first line indent box, it's in the left indent. So that's going to apply to all of the lines in the paragraph. All of the lines are going to be indented by whatever the amount is you type in here.
Okay.
Okay. Now the other thing that we were talking about, and you may have come back for part of this, but I'm going to repeat it for all of us, and that is in the indents and spacing spot, we can also control the leading between paragraphs. So when it says space after, it's referring to the amount of space after this paragraph. Since it's a paragraph style, we're editing. So we're saying that, well, after this paragraph, we want to put in 4 picas. So remember, there's 12 points per pica, so 4 times 12, that's how much space we're putting in. And so I say, okay. And sure enough, there's a lot more space between this one and this one. And then the one I'm currently in, I put the same amount, 4 picas. And so it came down, here's a new paragraph started. So I could be, I've got a new paragraph here. I finished that paragraph. I hit the return and start another paragraph. And sure enough, it is, again, gone down to same amount, 4 picas. And it also has indented the first line. Now, I've been talking to you guys about our goal is to indicate new paragraphs by one or the other of these ways to indicate it, not both. Right now, because I'm demonstrating how to put in space after or increase leading, and I'm also demonstrating how to indent a first paragraph, at the moment, we are looking at both of those things being applied, both additional leading and indentations. You want to pick one or the other for your style. You're either going to indent paragraphs or you're going to create an increased leading. So if and this happens because, so when I hit the return key, normally what it's doing is putting in the same amount of leading that you have in the previous paragraph. So if this leading is 16 points, when I hit the return key, normally it's going to go down 16 points. But because I edited that and said, no, I want it to go not 16 points, but 12 picas, that's why we're getting an increased amount. So let's say that I want to indicate new paragraphs, not by increased leading, but only by indentations. So if that's the case, I'm going to go to this style, which is story text, open it up. Remember, my amount of normal leading is 16 points. So I'm going to go to my spacing, and I'm going to say the space after here, I'm going to put at 0. So now you can see that with the amount of space between this paragraph and the one following it, there is no additional leading. It's the same leading as in the paragraph, and the new paragraph is instead indicated by an indent. I finish this paragraph, I hit the return key, new paragraph. Okay, so hitting the return key is the clue that InDesign looks for to say, oh, he wants a new, or she wants a new paragraph. Okay. If I have the shift and return key, InDesign, that's canceling out the clue that InDesign is looking for. It doesn't think we want a new paragraph then. Now, the reverse, if I want to indicate new paragraphs by increased leading and not an indent. So I'm going to click in the story text paragraph, open it up, go to indents and spacing, and make the space after, what did I have before, 4P0. And I'm going to make the first line indent 0. So I'm canceling out the first line indent, but instead, in its place, adding extra leading. So I say, okay.
So, Professor, you're saying you will either indent paragraph or increase leading, but not both.
Correct. And so I just showed you how to do either one.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I would never indicate the increased amount of leading by 4 picas. I just made it a lot to emphasize my point here. So you can see.
Okay.
If you wanted a rule of thumb just to begin with, I would say whatever is your leading, half again as much. So if my leading normally is 16 points, then I'm going to add 8 more to that. So I'm going to have 24 points. So let's see what that looks like. So I open this up. Let's change the indents and spacing, space after, not 4 picas, but 0P, what did I say? What did I say? 24, I think, 2 picas.
24.
Yeah. So with this amount of leading, I'd still say maybe that's too much, but that's a rule of thumb. Oh, yeah, I did it. Half again as much. So that's a place to begin, but seeing it applied with the sizes type and my default leading here to begin with, I think it's too much. I would lessen that. So let's do that. So let's open up story text, and again, indents and spacing. Instead of 2 picas or 24 points, let's say 20 points. I think that's a better amount, but you can see the process here, right? You apply it through the styles, then you look at the result and you decide if that's the look you want. And what we're currently doing is applying it, looking at it, and I'm, if it were mine and that spacing, I'd say, no, that's still too much. So I go back in and adjust it till I get the look that I want. And that's the process. Once you have it, then you're good to go. You can apply it to everything. But this is where you spend the time, is setting up or defining the style, as opposed to spending more time doing it over and over and over and over again with the possibility of making a mistake or missing a spot. Okay. I'm going to unshare here for a moment because I need to see all of you guys, those of you that I can see. So let's see. Some of you I haven't heard from yet. Salma, how's this working for you?
It's all right. I'm not too far along. I'm just kind of getting through it right now. But yeah, I think like all your instructions help, but I think I just really need to continue doing it for me to like actually see when I need to do it and then figure it out from there. I think it like I think don't yeah, I think I just really need to continue doing it for me to figure it out.
So when I'm doing it, it's making sense, but you're not sure you could repeat it. Is that it?
Yeah, like it makes sense. I understand it, but I think yeah, because yeah, like I feel like I need to do it for me to actually know where my problems are and all that.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. If this is the first time I ever saw this, I do the same thing. I think, oh yeah, it makes sense to me, but if my life depended on being able to now do it on my own, I'd
Yeah.
die. I wouldn't be able to do very well. And so, yes, luckily, Gavin reminded me to actually record this one. So it should exist out on our website, same with our previous ones that are there. And you can listen to it as often as you would like, and go to the section that you need to look at and repeat it where you can try to do it yourself. I think what I would do is do it as far as you can on your own, and then fast forward or rewind to the spot that picks it up from where you had a mistake.
Yeah.
I think another big thing for me is looking at like what stories I've already picked
Yes.
and where in those, like kind of organizing it in my brain or like writing down, like right now that's where I'm at. To, like I did some of the paragraph style stuff, but then there's other stuff like those unique little things, like the things that I feel that need to be kind of broken down a different way in the story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like maybe like the beginning of like the spider artist has like that little like poem song thing at the beginning, or just other stuff like that. So trying to find out like where there are other things in the storyline that are similar to that, so that they have the same style, if that makes any sense.
It does. Getting that style consistent.
Yeah, so like the consistency. So it's like I have to look at it first and like look at everything and say, oh, okay, this is another part of that story, or this is another story that has that same sort of like unique thing that's in that story where I have to treat it differently than the rest of the text. So like trying to organize my brain around that, and then like, okay, like taking that in steps.
Okay. I think finding that the steps, going through it, is how you learn it.
Well, but I guess what I'm trying to say is like, so that's like some, I might not have a question about it now, but like once I get to that, I might be like, oh, I have a question now about that particular thing. Because I'm taking in steps. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and sorry, I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is a process. I'm not expecting you to, in fact, I would be surprised if based on this one time going through it, that you could all then immediately go and do this. I don't think that's realistic. This is weird. That, you're not alone in thinking this is weird, bizarro, kind of not what I signed up for, or what? I didn't know people did this. No, I think that's a pretty normal reaction. And I had the same, I've told you this before. I had the same reaction when I was first confronted with a grid. I had the same reaction when I was first confronted with this stuff. In fact, I couldn't get it, so I just can't save me that much time. And so I went ahead and did it the other way. And oh my God, I went crazy. It took forever. And it finally dawned on me that, oh, maybe I should check this out. Maybe I should try and learn it and see if it will help me. And I was still reluctant. I was probably the most reluctant design student ever on this stuff. And gradually I got converted over to the dark side, and it's helped. So I'm doing two things here. I'm encouraging you to have a leap of faith with me, and don't go through all the months, if not years, of agony of doing it the long way around. and do try to learn it here at first. On the other hand, I understand that it's a weird thing to learn. I don't think it's necessarily intuitive. I've tried to phrase it in a way that makes more sense. It's why I try to at first give you the concept that we're going for, the look that we're going for, as a reason, as the look. And then you can control that look consistently across many versions of where you want that look to be. The other is this time-saving aspect, and that's probably the most important one. And because of that is probably the main reason I gave you so much text. Because again, you could be like me and get away with not having to learn it if you didn't have a lot of text. I know that. I've done that. And I want you to learn it. I think it will make your life easier if you know it. Even if you're not doing it on a day-to-day basis, even if page layout is not your most favorite thing. I think a lot of people, though, it is. And I do think that for those who would like to do page layout on a more regular basis, if you know this, you will find those jobs even as a freelancer, because you'll be able to do it twice as fast as anybody else. Somebody who is a good designer but doesn't apply these styles will take 3 times longer. And people, authors, publishing houses are out there looking for freelancers to do layout. They won't hire them because you get paid by the hour, and they will have to either charge too much, or they will have to charge the same amount that everybody else does that's using styles. And they're just, this taking them 2 days to do something everybody else is doing in half a day. So it doesn't work out. So I don't know. Those are some of the easy, most common reasons to learn it. I guess basically, though, I'm still going to come back to the fact that I do understand it's a weird thing, and that the way to learn it is step by step. And so as you go along with it, and then like Hatsine was saying, that if then you run into an issue, a problem, or I don't know what I do from here, I can't remember how you get to the next step, that's fine. It's part of the process. So at that point, you can either email me or wait for the next time we meet. Any version of that, because I believe that if you emailed me, if I'm not in the middle of another meeting or something, or in the middle of the night when you guys work, then if you send me a question, I will get back to you as soon as I can and can probably tell you what to do.
How'd you know we're working till the middle of the night?
I know. I see when some of you do email me, and it's like 3 in the morning. It's like, no. I know it's on your mind at that point, but I'm not going to respond at 3:15.
What are you doing at 3 o'clock in the morning? Are you actually doing this? Actually.
I have a question.
Yes.
Clara's shopping.
Yes. Where are your gloves, Clara? Not Clara.
So, if I have 2 typefaces. One for my, I guess the titles of the stories, and another one for the body of the text.
Yes.
Now, I had an idea for the cover, and I thought, I'm going to do this, but then my mind started to go towards another typeface. So, but I can't have 3, right? Or is that
cover? Well,
yeah. Could the cover be different?
Usually, no. You want a connection with what's inside, and usually you want 2 typefaces, but pick typefaces that have multiple font options.
Yeah, they do.
The exception to that, or a way that might not be as critical, is if you are picking 2 typefaces, and you pick one that has a stronger personality for the headline, because you're not going to use that any other place except the headline. The other place or reason why you might have 3 typefaces would be because you have the publishing company on there and its brand or its logo is a typographic one that's using a different typeface.
Okay, so then I should narrow it down to then which one I'm going to use then.
Yes.
Okay, that answers my question. I just want to make sure. I thought so, but I was just checking.
Yeah, well, that was a good initial feeling about it. Yeah. Now, I should say this. This doesn't apply to the cover of the book, but it does apply to the titles. So remember, you have two different options here on the titles of the stories. One is that you might make the title of each story a different typeface because you're picking that typeface to be indicate the personality of that story only. So you can do that. The other way to do it is to have all of the titles be the same typeface. So both of those conventions, both those conventions exist out there and they're both acceptable. If you chose that second one, where all of the titles, regardless of story, are the same typeface, you want to create a character style called titles. And then you just apply.
I did do that.
Okay.
But that's why I was so. But you also said right now that you could do a different type for each story.
For each story, for each title of each story, not
each title.
Because the story text, its purpose is readability, not strong personality.
Yeah, no, mine is all the same. I just didn't think that you could do the story title in a different. I thought it all had to be the same.
No, you have either way for the titles.
Okay. Got it.
Okay. So then the downside of that, because that sounds, oh, great, cool, I like that.
It's
the hard part now is you've got the title of the book. The title of the book cannot be any one of those typefaces that you've used on a story.
It can't be?
No, because now it's favoring that story.
Oh, okay. But it could be if they're all the same.
Yes. But yes, it could. Okay. Okay. Noah, how are you doing here?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, yeah, I'm doing good. So far, what you covered, I think I've already done it so far, but it was just nice to, have it refreshed. As far as any questions that I had, so I see that we're gonna have to have block quotes for the story. Do you have any recommendations for those?
Oh, sorry. I just use that as an example. If you don't have block quotes, that's fine.
Oh, okay.
It kind of goes into another little lecture, I guess, to a certain degree, in that, okay, if this is all typographic primarily, what are the other kinds of type treatments can I do? So we could do a text wrap, we could do pull quotes, we could treat quotes as block quotes, we could do a variety of other things. And I kind of have resisted going into that today because I feel like this paragraph character styles is a lot.
Okay.
But I guess as a short answer to that, when you said we have to have block quotes, that's not true.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can have block quotes.
Right. And then, so I know that each story needs to begin on the right page, right?
Correct.
So would it be a good idea to maybe reserve that left page that's left over for artwork?
Nice idea. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I think those are all the questions that I have for now.
Okay. Since you brought that one up, we have a couple maybe commonly used spaces for images. One would be, let me share my screen again. And let's go back to this. I put in a lot of extra junk here, but I think that's okay. Let's say that this is the first page of a story. And I'm going to have the style of my first pages be maybe this. It starts about halfway down the page, not at the top, but about halfway down. And I'm going to have a spot illustration right here. So, so this is, I'm going to try and demonstrate here. We'll put my daughter in. We haven't used my daughter for a while. So, so I can have a spot illustration, whether it's a photograph or anything else, up here. It's not a full. It could be a spot illustration. It could be a half-page illustration that bleeds. Could be that kind of thing. It could be what's the other version? I think on the title page though, a very, very common one is something like this, where I have a smaller image that is on the first page, and the text begins halfway down. Now on my succeeding pages, it goes back up to the top margin. So I guess what I'm saying is, one place is that an image can exist is here. Another place, like you just said, let's see, wait a minute. Another place would be, let's say, let's do it like this. Here's my story. And it's going to begin at the top and continue, well, this isn't a good margin, but it's staying at the top. And then I have my left-hand page over here, and that's where I have either a spot illustration, or I can now have a full page illustration over there. I could have any version of that. So that's a second common location. A third location would be, let's say I have 3 columns, and I have my story existing like this across 2 columns. And I use this column for illustrations. So again, I might have, it's kind of like a spot illustration. I have this here, and I am placing an image. Let's put I'll put my doggy in there. So here she is. And since, let's do that. So the picture that I have of her in this case is cut off. So if I have an image of a person or an animal where we're not seeing the entire, in this case, animal, then I don't want it floating up here like that. I could instead, if I want to have this column over here reserved for graphics, I might move it down here, where the reason for the image being cut off is because, well, that's the bottom of the page. Okay. Now I can do that and crop off an image that I have the whole image too. But my main point here is this third column could exist for placement of graphics. Now, as we're going along, there could be other pages where there is nothing there. It's just the format. It's white space. And on other pages, maybe I have 2 illustrations there. And then the third would be a text wrap. And I don't want to start that one today. Okay?
Okay.
But since you brought up placement of images, I thought I would. So the 3, I have a full page illustration on the left-hand side, I have a spot illustration, possibly at the beginning of a title page. I might also, a third instance would be out of a 3-column grid. I might use one of those columns and reserve it for images. And then the fourth, which I'm not going to demonstrate today, is a text wrap.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Madison, let me come back to you. How are you doing with all of this? Madison, you're still muted. Calling Madison. She may have stepped. Oh, how did I get?
Maybe it's like a different device. It's just like desktop and something else.
I'm sorry. That's way too funny.
Gavin, did you do that?
Wait, are you on there twice?
I am. I didn't do it.
It's freaking Gavin, I swear.
What the heck?
He probably took a screenshot and then.
That's something.
Yeah.
Very good.
I don't know who's real. Which one is real?
Which one is the real one?
You weirdo.
It's like, sure, like taking a screenshot.
Yeah.
What?
I guess.
Oh, and you picked such a good picture of me too. Yeah.
You
What? Oh, man.
Gavin, could you go back? Could you go back again?
Could I go back to a different question?
He's gone.
Um,
Weirdo.
Melanie? I think you were starting to ask a question.
Oh no, I was like mentioning how probably like took a screenshot and like put that there.
Yes.
Exactly. That's exactly what I did.
Yes,
Freaking weirdo.
that's quite good. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Do you guys have any questions or comments about any other thing? Not necessarily the paragraph styles, document styles.
For the margins, I noticed that on the website you have for like the for when we're doing the margins that you have the like we need to have the inside margin be bigger than like the outside. I wanted to check on that if we're still keeping that because I think I read it had to do with like when we're binding the book.
It does.
So I wanted to see if we're still doing that or not.
We are still doing that.
Okay.
And why I'm kind of hesitating here a little bit is because that inside margin, the width of it depends on a couple of things.
Okay.
So one of the things is how the book is going to be bound. So the way that we're talking about a book that opens, a codex book that opens like that, and is typically a perfectly bound. It's called perfect binding. That's not a correct term for what's actually going on, but that's what it's called, perfect binding. So I think Cutscene's got one there. Yeah. Yeah, it's a version of perfect bind where in that case it's a soft cover that's glued and wrapped around it. There is one that Gavin has that's sewn signatures. So there are several signatures stacked within each other, up to maybe 16-page SIGs, and then the SIGs are stacked on top of one another. What that does is cut down on paper creep. So paper creep is what we're referring to when those pages open up, and the more pages that are stacked inside, the harder it is to see stuff that's in the gutter. That's why we need a wider margin there to allow us to see and read that information when books are perfectly bound.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there like a rule of thumb for like how big of a difference there should be then between the size of the inside margin and the size of the outside margin?
Yes. Our rule of thumb is the golden section.
Oh, okay.
Fibonacci numbers.
Oh, okay. We'll check.
Okay. So that's one answer. The other answer is that generally speaking, the more pages there are in the book, that inside margin should get wider because of this paper creep thing. Okay, so that's what happens. Now you decide by how much because of the Fibonacci number series. So by the comparison between it and the outside ones. Now, like this, the determination of the margins, like the use of the grid, like the look of a paragraph style, I believe you do all of this first intuitively. You just do it by what you think looks right, what feels good. And then you now apply, in the case of margins, the Fibonacci number series to tweak it. Okay?
Got it.
But I think you do it first intuitively.
So like you're talking about the size of the book and all of that because it's curving and it's fatter. So like when I had it originally at the 8.5 by 11, when we were like talking about it first, I went back and I changed it later to like the half size. And so I had to change the margins. I'm at like, I don't know, 130, 40 something. I don't even know how many pages, 175. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But so I did change and made the inside margin larger because it did, like, it kind of goofed up once I changed the size. So, but of course, like doing that, of course, it made it a lot longer now too, and it's probably fatter.
Yes.
So.
Okay, so I can talk generally about another step. So since you guys showed two great examples of what affects this stuff, so that perfectly bound book that you held up that had a soft cover wrap around it, have any of you ever had a book like that, which it doesn't even have to take a long time, but at some point some of the pages start falling out?
Art history book.
Yeah, right. So the reason is it's cheaper. There we go. So they start falling out.
Yeah, it's falling apart.
Look how thick that book is.
Yeah.
So there's a point. Well, those pages are all held in there because those pages are glued on the end of a single sheet. It's kind of like a notepad. It's glued on the end. They're not signatures. They're single pages that are glued on the end. Now there's a variation of that sometimes where there's signatures glued. But the ones that fall out, those are single pages. Like this hand is one page, and they're stacked up like this, and glue is put on the end, or padding, and then a cover is wrapped around it. The only thing holding that page in there is the thin edge of the piece of paper that has glue on it stuck to the back. So the thicker that book gets, it becomes easy as we open the book and use it, flex it, for that page to fall out. So why do they do that? It's cheaper. It's a cost-saving thing. It's way cheaper to do that perfect bound kind of book that is held in that way than it is to do sewn signatures like the one that Gavin held up. And so but the sewn signature book is going to last a whole heck of a lot longer. So when do we use perfect bind? My rule of thumb is actually my thumb. So if
I was going to ask, which one should we use? And then do we have to think about, like, because don't we have to keep, if depending on how we're binding it, we have to think about how many pages the book is going to have and add extra pages at the end of it, like blank ones?
Well, we do, that's a different thing. But let me do the rule of thumb thing.
Okay. Sorry.
The number of your pages doesn't stack up to anything thicker than your thumb. Perfect binding is a perfectly stable way to go. Costs less, and it will more than likely it'll all stay together. What
do you mean?
Well,
no, I mean like when you say size of your thumb.
The thickness of your thumb.
Yeah, so like the thickness.
So if I stack up
this way?
To stack them up like this. If that stack is not thicker than my thumb, so this stack of paper.
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out, if you meant this way or this way. Like how do I put it up to compare it?
It's just a rule of thumb.
Okay.
A literal rule of thumb.
It's not, yeah. I mean, all our thumbs are different size, so.
I know, that's why I'm getting confused.
It's just a generalization.
Okay.
This is not a specific thing. But to give you some idea, if the stack of papers is not that, it's around that thickness, then if you were designing the book and trying to say, well, should we perfect bind it or not, then if it's only that number of pages, you'd probably be okay by saying, let's do it perfectly bound. So then you'd set up your InDesign layout single pages.
So should we look at, I guess, because I'm trying to figure out in my mind, I don't know. I mean, it's at 141 pages right now. I don't know what that's going to be unless I were to print that out right now.
That's going to make a book about that thick.
Okay, so that's what I guess on my visual is like, so if I need to know how I'm, the design wise of this,
yeah,
like I wanted to know how thick that's going to be.
Well, here I can give you another thing to compare.
This is why we need a classroom.
I know, because that's the thing. It's like I would have probably printed this at some point and been like, "Hey, how does this look?"
Yes. Well,
and I can't do that.
Let me give you another reference. Here's another reference that when we get new paper that we're going to put in the printer or something like that, we have a package of it.
Like a ream.
A ream.
You
know how thick that ream is, right? I mean,
yeah, but I don't know how many pages it has.
This has 500.
Oh, okay.
So that's 500 pages. That makes that stack that's about 2 inches, a little more thick. That's 500 pages. So if you said you had 140 some, okay, well, that's going to go down to there.
Okay.
Okay. Again, this is just general, but you need to have something, right? Otherwise, you're just kind of shooting in the dark. So you have some general idea of this, and then that will tell you on other projects how to set up your InDesign layout.
Okay.
In our case, on this assignment, I have already, for a number of reasons, given you a lot of pages. You're going to generate a lot of pages. I've given you a lot of text. Okay, so I've already decided that because of that you're doing facing pages in the InDesign layout. Okay. So that the way that when we finally get back and print this, you're going to do sewn signatures and actually glue a hardcover. Do that whole kind of book. Mm-hmm. I'm sure some of you have done some book kind of making for other things, and so that's those of you that have. That's the kind of book cover that we would be creating for this. Now, the other question that came up was does that mean we have to insert a bunch of blank pages at the end? And the answer to that is hopefully not.
Okay.
and the reason is this. Remember I asked you earlier on that if I have a single sheet of paper, a sheet of paper now, and I fold it in half, making a signature. I asked you, how many pages does that make? How many does it make?
It's 4.
4,
Or
right? Whoops, it's live. I've 1 page, 2 pages, and on the back, 3 and 4. So each piece of paper folded once makes a 4-page signature. Why that's important here is that to have text on every page in the book, the total number of pages in the book needs to be a multiple of 4. If my total number of pages is 503, that's not evenly divisible by 4. So that means I'm probably going to have some blank pages on the end to put that book together. Because I can't just have a bunch of folded sheets and then hold in there a single sheet of paper. There's no way to hold it in. It's always a multiple of 4. Okay? So as you, this is one of the influences on why some books have additional front matter or additional back matter. Or they have more than one thing on one page. Let's say that the total number of pages in a book ended up being 505 pages. Let's do this. 500. Does that work? It ends up being. It ends up being one. Math is creeping in here. It ends up being 1 page short of a number that would be evenly divisible by 4. Okay.
yeah.
So instead then, what I'm going to do is take maybe the introduction page and the dedication page and put them on this, or information, and put them on the same page in the book, so that I'm not adding that extra page that makes it more than a multiple of 4. Because when it goes 1 page more than a multiple of 4, I have to have 3 blank pages to get to the next, right?
Yeah, well, and that's why I'm asking, I guess, because I'm at 141. So
So 141.
divided by 4 is 35.25.
Right. So you want to either be thinking about front matter that would total it up to the next highest number, which would make the easiest sense to me, or you do something with the layout. Maybe that
like
half page front of each story, or something in there. We adjust the layout.
Could I have like 2 pages of like just an illustration in there? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
This is another reason why, well, it is affected also by, some books, they have all of the pictures in the middle of the book, which drives me nuts. It's you're reading along and they're talking about something and you'd like to see the picture of it right there, but you got to go to the middle of the book to see it. And it's there with other pictures that you know nothing about yet. You won't even hear about until later in the book. I don't like that at all. But the reason is, there's 2 reasons that happens. One is to generate the total number of that are divisible by 4. But the other reason is that 9 times out of 10, those images are on a different kind of paper. They're all on like a coated glossy paper because they're photographs, where the text is on a non-glossy paper to make it easier to read. So all this gets into the printing formatting of the book, which we aren't going to be able to do now, which is too bad. But why we're talking about it is because what we do now is the decisions that we make now and the layout and the setup of it does affect and is affected by how we put the final book together. It's all related. We can't do all the layout and in the end decide, oh, I think I would like to bind it this way or that. We don't have those choices at that point. We have to be thinking about that early on. Now, because this is our one and only InDesign project, we didn't get to play around with that on earlier, shorter assignments. So I had to somehow just make that decision for us and talk about it, and hopefully we get it. Okay. Let's not get too bogged down with that particular part right now, though.
Okay.
So I think that kind of goes into one of my other questions, was if we're gonna have a limit to how many pages we can have with this book.
Yeah, there's no limit to the number of pages. Ideally, we want the total number to be a number that is divisible by 4.
Okay. Thank you.
And that total number includes what we've been calling front matter.
Mhm.
Okay. And we'll have a colophon, which we'll put at the end.
All right.
So does that mean that we can have like a really big sheet of paper with all the stories on it? You just have 6 pages?
Oh my god. Oh my god.
On
Bro.
another planet today, my friend.
Just thinking for simple solutions.
Modern problems require modern solutions, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
You're like in the year 320.
Yes. Any other one? Okay, keep plugging away with this. Don't
Gavin's gonna do a scroll binding.
Yeah, I'm afraid of that.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Don't give up on me here. Hang in there with it. You can send up any JPEGs or, of things in progress, questions. I tend to do better if I see something, just like you do. If you see, I do the same thing. So if you show me examples by uploading, and it will help me too if you upload them to the Canvas site as opposed to sending them in an email, because like you, I am getting absolutely swamped with stuff. And so it gets buried easily within an hour. I've got 60 more emails. I'm not kidding. And it's not fun. And so if it's in Canvas, that way, through those upload submission sections, that keeps it organized for me. And then when I have time to go back and start doing that, I can simply go to there and try to comment and answer back. Okay, and that's no doubt true for all of your teachers. All righty.
Wait, before everyone goes, I have a question for everyone.
Okay, all right. Let's hear it.
Of course.
Are you guys familiar with UpDog?
UpDog.
No.
Really? Really? Are you kidding me?
How does UpDog go?
You have to say what?
What's up, dog?
Nothing much.
Really?
Oh my god.
So dumb.
All right.
I'm sorry, I had to.
Oh, did you know?
You had to. Well, maybe when this is all done, we'll play some Jackbox games or something, huh?
Oh, I would love that.
Well, I told you I played, maybe I didn't tell you guys. So over Easter, we had a big family Zoom thing because I just can't get enough of Zoom. And
Oh my God, we had that the other day too, actually, in my family.
yeah, well, we played a version of Pictionary on the whiteboard, doing the whiteboard. Oh my God, it was hilarious. So, all right. Anyway, may the force be with you.
Oh my God.
And also with you.
Yeah, and also with you.
Live long and prosper.
Whatever.
Bye.
You can never do
Everybody.
it. Here doesn't work. All right. Bye, you guys.
Bye.